So hello, Leonel.
Hello, Lucas. Good to see you.
Yes, so you were recommended to me by Ayano Yoneda, because you were important in the Seoul tango community, and yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. How it became such a strong social dance scene. Um,
Okay.
but, but first, I would like to ask you, like, can you give me a short summary of who you are, just for those who are not familiar with you?
Sure. I used to live in San Francisco. That's where I met Ayano. I started dancing there in around year 2000. And after like 4 or 5 years, I started to become bored with living and also actually dancing in the US. So I started traveling a little bit. And actually, I grew up in Hong Kong. So naturally, I traveled back to Asia, to different cities to dance and to see people, kind of just, searching for the next phase of my life, I guess. And I went to Hong Kong, I went to Tokyo, I went to Seoul, I went to Taiwan. And eventually, for a variety of reasons, Seoul really attracted me. And so I moved there for 6 months just to live because I guess just trying out to live in a new city, learn a new language was exciting to me. And my job at the time allowed me to do that. And then I was living in Seoul for 6 months, learning the language, dancing all the time. And then eventually I met actually my current wife, who is Korean. And so we became together, make a long story short, after a few years of long distance relationship. Eventually I moved here, we got married, and we work in Tango together. And here we are today.
In Seoul.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Um, so now the central question of this video is why is the social dance scene so good in Seoul and um even like in Buenos Aires tradition, as they say.
Okay. That's sort of a big question. So why don't I give you like a couple different angles? From a personal level, when I first came here, the dance, it was like 2004 or 5. The dance was not very advanced in terms of like technique or not a lot of visiting teachers. Um, but I can feel the warmth in people's embrace. And I could feel people really love dancing. And it's not that the dancing in the US is bad, but comparatively from what I knew then, in the US there was more focus on like figuring out the technique, figuring out all the different movements, figuring out, what is the right lead and follow. It's not that Koreans don't care about that. It's just at that time when I arrived, maybe because the dance was a bit raw here, I could really feel the warmth of the people through the embrace. And later, after living here for a while, I learned that actually dancing and singing is a big part of their culture compared to other parts of Asia. A quick story: I was at the birthday party of my father-in-law. After the big dinner, everybody in the family, including the father-in-law, all the relatives, many of them about 80 and 90, just stood up, go to the front of the hall and start singing karaoke. And those who are not singing are just dancing together. This is not imaginable in Hong Kong where I grew up. And so I think because Koreans are so into dancing and singing, it's such a big part of their basic culture. So tango really is a good match for them. Whereas like in Japan or Hong Kong, like touching and showing emotion in public is a little bit more taboo, I guess, or less culture if you do that a lot in public. Another thing that really matches well between Korean culture and tango is um, eating and drinking late at night. So in Buenos Aires, milongas start at midnight, and after people stop dancing at 4 or 5 in the morning, they would still go to have a coffee and eat some breakfast. In Korea, they do it a lot too. You know, they like drinking and eating really late at night. So after milonga here, people often go to. It's a habit for people to go out to drink and eat and talk more and be friends. Actually, they like drinking and eating more after the milonga than during the milonga. Whereas in other parts of Asia, at least before, things don't open so late. You know, after 12, 1 or 2 o'clock, many places close and the habit of drinking is not as strong. And in Japan, for example, it's really hard to go home out so late because the taxi fee is really expensive. Anyway, so I think there's some cultural and societal reasons why tango is a good match. And then another reason is how they developed tango in the beginning, which is through these kinds of interest clubs. It's not professional, just a bunch of people who like the same thing, like dancing or bicycling or hiking. They'll find each other online and they'll start organizing. They'll start accepting new members. They will have weekly meetings, go on weekly hikes, or somebody would try to organize some orientation for new members. So they have this whole way of social organizing around activities. And tango is the same. Somebody who is very important, I think, in the history of tango in Korea, he started one of these interest club, all volunteers, in early 2000, I think. And that club attracted some really passionate and good members. And in the beginning, and they would just teach each other. That's one feature of these clubs is they teach each other for free. They gather like 20 or 40 new members every 2 months. And then the teacher who went through this program would teach the new students. And they focus a lot on making friends with each other, of course, going out to drink afterwards. And so, you know, tango is really difficult in the beginning. But if you can make friends with each other first, then learning how to dance become easier because there are people who go through the process with you. So through this kind of social clubs, the tango developed pretty well in terms of numbers. And then when I came here, what me and my wife observed was that in other parts of Asia, the level was higher because many people in other parts of Asia have been to Buenos Aires or have invited teachers from Buenos Aires to teach. Whereas Korea, it's a little bit more isolated. The dance is quote unquote more primitive, but the base is really quite sizable, quite big size. And the people have a basic love for dancing. So at that time, you know, me and my wife thought our main work is try to, one, raise the level, and two, introduce other Asians to Koreans and introduce Koreans to other Asians. And that's partly why we started the Seoul Tango Festival in 2008 or 9, I think. And so it's like an event so that many foreigners and maestros can come and Koreans can see what's outside the world and can inspire themselves to dance better when they see other people are dancing well. And actually, I didn't know Ayano that well. We met kind of because I think when I left San Francisco, she hasn't danced for so long. But her and Felipe really supported our festival and came to our festival almost every year. And then that's how she saw the Seoul community grew. That's sort of my basic answer. I mean, if you have anything follow up, please feel free. Or if you find anything interesting or unexplained. I mean,
Well,
given is my point of view, and it's like a very short, compressed history of what I saw.
yes. Well, I'm interested in what the role you played in making it even better.
You mean now or before?
Well, before, because you started in the early 2000s to teach there. So
I think there are two things that I did right. I'm a foreigner here. My wife is Korean, so our roles are slightly different. I'm talking about the thing that I focused on. Of course, we worked together, but the things that more I did. And one is because I really like Korea, I have an interest in Korea, but also I'm a foreigner. So I speak English well. I have friends in other parts of Asia. So I think I play a role in bringing many foreigners to Korea and bringing Koreans to outside. Because in the year around that time, early 2000s, actually, many Koreans are quite shy. Some of them can speak English, some of them cannot, but they are quite shy to speak in front of foreigners. Many of them would not go outside to travel unless they join a tour, which is everything is arranged for them. It's quite different than Europe. And they are also shy in front of foreigners. So there was another festival in Asia at the time, but very few Koreans would go. Usually the ones who are a little bit well off, who have more international experience would go, but many Koreans who dance would not go. And so also foreigners coming to Korea probably was a little bit difficult because not many people speak English. A lot of the road signs are in Korean. It's hard to find your way around. In the restaurant, there's no menu. So if you don't join a tour, you come to Korea by yourself just to dance. It's not so convenient, easy like nowadays or like Europe. I think Europe is quite convenient all the time, very international, right? So I think I play a part in that. I try to make the festival very convenient to foreigners. There's easy way to apply in English, a lot of maps. And then once you put the Koreans and the foreigners together and they dance the same dance, then magic could happen. So I remember in our first or second festival, me and wife was sitting together and we're looking and we see the Koreans and foreigners are really dancing together, enjoying each other, making a connection. That's what tango is about, right? Making a connection. And we're really happy because we knew who they are. They don't know each other and they can hardly talk to each other, but they could make a connection. And I think through that is one like quote unquote contribution I made, I guess. And of course I did it with my wife because I'm sort of dealing with the foreign part and she's dealing with the Korean part. And my Korean is not so great. So our link sort of helped bring foreigners to Korea and how to connect them. Nowadays, foreigners come to Korea to dance all the time. Like every week there's like 10, 20, 30 foreigners here. It's like a festival all the time. And they have many Koreans who are outside the dance. Many Koreans know a lot of foreign friends. Because Koreans dance well, they feel very well treated when they go abroad. So the situation has totally changed. I think that's one. The second one is, I think we try, again, it's me and my wife, we try to focus on a little more on the culture of the dance than on the movement or the technique. Not that the movement technique is not important, but we feel although Koreans really love dancing, they love the music, they have a certain sentiment similar to Argentinians, this kind of nostalgia of sadness. But they need to learn like what is a milonga? What's the difference between a milonga and a dance party? They need to learn about good DJing. They need to learn about why do we have table and chairs in a milonga? What is cabeceo? Why is cabeceo good? Or another thing I observe is, in a place, if the women are willing to reject people's invitation, I guess guys the same. But if people are willing to reject other people's dances, the level generally rise. Because if everybody just very happily dance with everybody all the time, people may lose the motivation to improve. But if people learn to be a little bit picky or be a little bit more true to your own preference, then the level can rise. So we try to really work on the culture, work on this kind of follow this kind of cultural habit of tango, and I think that really helps. And in particular, we learn from Javier Rodriguez and Andrea Misei. At the time she was alive, and Javier, for us, is like one of the few teachers who really teach this kind of thing, the culture. What is tango in Buenos Aires? And what was it like before? How do the women do the rejection? Why do they reject? All that kind of thing. So I think that's the second thing maybe we did right, and when we try to develop tango here.
So in short, there was already like a fertile soil for this type of tango, and then you felt like you had the responsibility to develop this further. Um, and that's maybe why you got good results because of these two factors. So there's already something that is quite good for the development of social tango, like conditions that are good for the development of social tango, and then you add to that by educating people further, not only in technique but also in what the social dance of Buenos Aires is truly like, what milonga culture is like. So do I
I
understand
think
that
you can,
correctly?
yeah, I think you can say that. I also want to say is of course the the development of a place is the work and sacrifice of many people of that place. It's just the two things that I mentioned. It's maybe a little bit unique to us. It's not that other people don't try to make international events. It's not that other people don't talk about the culture and etiquette and cabaseo. It's just that we were very focused on that early on. And I think maybe because of the fact that I'm a foreigner and my wife is a Korean, and the fact that our teacher Javier is really good at talking about those kind of things, we we could make an impact at the time. But for example, these kind of clubs, the social clubs that we mentioned earlier, it basically runs on the passion of the volunteers, and it takes a lot of work to run one series of beginners class because they really try to organize. Well, they have to teach, they have to organize the class, but they also organize after class activities, some drinking sessions for people to meet each other, to make friends. They really try to integrate the new members into the club. It's a lot of work, and they already have full-time work. So it's a lot of sacrifice for the club. And I think many people in Korea really sacrifice their time because they think it's a worthwhile thing to make the scene like it is today. Of course, there are professionals. Later, there are more and more professionals who work full time, and also they have make a big impact indeed.
Yes, but this is pretty much the origin.
I would say it's the second phase. The origin was there was one couple. They were salsa dancers. They went to Buenos Aires. They learned tango. They like it. They brought it back, and they already pretty organizing salsa pretty well. So they started tango. They actually invited Sebastian Arce and Mariana to Korea to teach for like 1 or 2 months to get it started before Sebastian Arce and Mariana were so famous. And they started this first social club, which is the biggest club nowadays. And after the club got running, they started a tango bar called Tango o Nada, which is the oldest and has been the most successful tango milonga in Seoul. And that was phase one, I think. And
Okay.
this, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead. I interrupted you.
Oh, no, no, no. I was saying that was what they did. And when I came, I met them. And that was the time when actually they were actually splitting up the couple. But the club was there, the Tango Onada was there, and then I met my wife, and then we started working. And I think our festival, our studio also contributed to this. I guess the second phase of development, at least from what I can see.
Yeah, so maybe one more question about today. So,
Sure.
is it still like, does Seoul still stand out in the sense of social tango in Asia, or has it all become more like leveled the same?
I think it still stands out judging by the number of people who would come here to dance during holidays or normal days. Like I have friends from Hong Kong who would come here like literally 12 times a year. What has changed is what I've heard is China, the level is increasing quite quickly. The number of people is expanding a lot. So socially, the social dancing is still the best, I think. But I heard China is catching up quite fast, and many Koreans now like going to China to dance. Secondly, is I think it's a worldwide thing probably. Is that because of the Mundial, the social dance scene has changed somewhat. Koreans are also very big on competition. It's a very competitive group of people. So competition is like naturally very appealing to them. Like practicing very hard, finding out all the different technique or secrets of how to perform better, and training together, having classes that focus on competition. All this stuff is quite suited to the Korean taste. So people are quite in competition, and this is like my personal observation, and also I've heard from some people. It's not like something very objective, obviously, but it's just what I feel is, for example, in the milonga, the line of dance is becoming a little bit, not a little bit. The line of dance is becoming quite sluggish, and some people think it's because of the competition, and I can believe that. Or there's a lack of focus on teaching about the line of dance. Maybe because of the competition, maybe people just don't like to teach about the line of dance in general. But as I understand the way the line of dance works in competition and the way of line of dance works in the milonga is also different. If you're very used to the competing environment, if you do the same in the milonga, it won't work. And some people think, and I can also see that people are more dancing by themselves on the floor. So for me, it's really important, like a good milonga, all the couples are connected to each other, the partner, but also very important that the couples are connected to each other on the floor. You should be aware of who else is on the floor, in front of you, behind you, next to you. And in a way, you dance together. Not in a way. Exactly, you dance together, follow the line. And there's like this joy that, you feel the people around you is enjoying the same song that you're enjoying, and you're advancing together. And that takes training. Tango is hard, leading is hard, dancing with each other, matching each other, and listening to the music is hard, but also you need to spend your attention for the people around you. And I feel that is also lacking. It could be that people just don't teach that. It could be that there are many champions who come here to teach and they don't really teach that, because in the competition, you need to focus more on yourself to stand out. You don't really want to connect to the other competitors on the dance floor, I guess. So, and I know I'm in the scene and I have my own preference and positions. So I could be biased. Sometimes I do hear some friends who used to come to Seoul before the pandemic, and they have come again, and they're saying, yeah, things have kind of changed. It's kind of different now.
Well, that's very interesting how something that's really good can also be undermined in a way, even though it's not like nobody is consciously undermining it, but it just so happens that if a preference changes, then it can be a negative effect for social dancing.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
What I see is there are always trends in tango, right? Like I started in 2000, there have been like, I don't know, 2-3 sort of big trends in the world, and it's not something that anybody planned, and always the people who are riding or who enjoy the new trend likes it, and the people who were before the trend feel, why are we going that way? Everything is good right now. So it always happens, I guess. But but hopefully some tango, something about tango never changes.
Yes. Maybe just one more short question. We have just a few minutes. In this
Sure.
in this development that you talked about, like also the international contacts. So is it possible that, like, did people travel to Buenos Aires and brought something back with them as well, or is that not really the case?
What I believe is all the tangos we have come from Buenos Aires, and locally people may modify it, change it in some way according to their own culture, but everything is basically from Buenos Aires. And I think what I see is in Korea, there are more and more visiting Argentinian teachers, and however these teachers dance, whatever these teachers, like for example, how the teachers perform, used to be that people perform a lot more with improvisation, but nowadays many more people perform. Even it looks like a improvisation, but it's not. It's a choreography, and that's also how some of the newer Koreans perform also. And I think it's basically what the Argentinians are doing, and we invite many of the teachers to come over, and they bring over this stuff, and we change it or vary it in some way according to our preferences. That's what I see. And then Korea and Buenos Aires are really far away. I think Buenos Aires is exactly like at the opposite end of the globe. So not many Koreans can go, but surely there are some Koreans who go, and usually they bring a lot of stuff back. They bring back the teachers they like. They talk about what they have learned, or they stay for a longer time, and they start, for example, they go to the university to study music, and they start teaching about DJing and stuff like that. It happens. Not as much as Europe, but it happens.
Okay. Well, thank you for your explanation today. So it was
Not at all.
interesting
My
to
pleasure.
yes, what interesting to learn something about a place I've never visited, and how it stands out in a way. So that was very interesting, and also thanks to Ayano for the idea. And
Yes,
I hope to speak to you again.
I hope so too. Good luck.
Good luck. Bye bye.